welcome to Actors Centre Australia and our In Conversation series. It's my very special pleasure to welcome you. Today I'm hosting with ACA Chairman, Mr. David Chiem. Now, it is my privilege to cross live to New York City, where we welcome our very special guest. He's ACA's patron, and he is a true leader and believer and champion of this industry. And it's my great pleasure to welcome Mr. Hugh Jackman.
Hey, everybody. Hey, Dino.
How are you doing?
Good to see you, mate. I'm doing great. Considering everything, doing great. Well, now, I can see about 5 people. I'm sure I see now, I'm looking down, a bunch of participants, but
there's about 55.
Just let me know who's literally on this list here.
We'll be going to each person individually, one by one. We've got a first year, second year, third year, fourth year. We've got a lot of staff on board. Our chairman is on board. And we've got about 155,000 people watching as well live on Facebook.
Wow.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah.
This is my biggest crowd ever. This is awesome.
Hey, the world is going through such a huge transformation, as we know, and the industry is going through such a huge transformation. But I know the tribe is very strong. I mean, we are so resilient as an industry. And I remember when you came to ACA many, many years ago and you said to me and to the students that when you first arrived at ACA, you felt like you'd found your tribe. What was that feeling like for you?
It was a huge relief because I'd finished a degree and I didn't realize that. I was just sort of following on what I took a gap year after high school. I went and did a degree. I suspected that I wasn't quite in my groove, but I thought, this is just how it's meant to be. And it was like walking into ACA, I was like, oh, I think I've just wasted the last 3 years of my life. This is where I'm meant to be. You know, when you feel that, it's just the greatest thing. And I say to my kids as well, all the time, just don't settle until you have that feeling. It doesn't mean it's not going to be difficult. But I can honestly tell you, my year at the Actors Centre, then my 3 years at WAPA, I don't think I ever missed a day because I just loved it. Like for me, it felt like home. And I'm just so grateful that I've had that and then been able to stay in that tribe and make a living at it, which feels like a huge privilege to me.
Yeah, well, it is a place we can call home, I think, this industry, unlike many other industries. And I was reflecting back on our time together, and I've just finished a book about teaching acting. And 2 things that I think are the foundation of my teaching is being present and permission. So presence and permission, and not presence as in the actor's aura or the actor's X factor, but presence as in being 100% present. Listening, feeling, tasting, touching, being aware, being attentive and alert, and then permission to say, yes, I'm playing this character. Yes, I'm in this world. Yes, these are the people around me. Yes, this is what I'm fighting for. And I think that I see that in your work, that wonderful sense of I'm here and I give myself permission to be here.
Yeah, thanks. Dean, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit because it sort of suited me in a big way, the way you taught. And I think that's why I felt so at home at the Actors Centre, because you will, and all of you will go into environments where you don't feel that sense of safety. There may not always be that sense of permission and may sometimes feel competitive or a little isolated. But when I began, particularly with you at the Actors Centre and then on at WAPA, first of all, it was fun. Like I remember you always saying, like, we're actors, like we're doing this because we love it, right? This has got to be fun. It doesn't mean it's trivial. You never made it trivial. You always honored the craft and made us realize this is a really honorable, worthy, difficult, challenging path to take. But it always should be fun and it should have a supportive atmosphere for everybody, which is the best way to learn, you know. And, you know, I've had some teachers at the Actors Centre, and I've seen some where it's more like I'm going to whip you, I'm going to break you down, and then I'm going to build you up as I think you should be. And I just don't think that is the way. And I think the more you can stay open, and this is a difficult time, and it can feel like there's dark clouds everywhere. And I certainly feel for those people who are graduating now or the people who are working, you know, beginning their careers, because it's a really, really tough time. But the more you can try and stay open, look after each other. And that was the other thing, the Actors Centre. I remember sort of quoting you on one of the films I was on. It was Darren Aronofsky. I was doing a film called The Fountain, and in rehearsals, he pulled me aside and said, do you like to go first or second when you're doing your coverage? I want to give you the option. And I said, mate, ever since I was with Dean at the Actors Centre, my teacher there, I don't think of my coverage and your coverage. We're doing the scene together. The camera, you put the camera where you want, that's your job. But when I'm in a scene, when I'm off camera, we've created a space. You may not see what the other person's doing, but without it, we have nothing. So I don't care. And I remember him always going, oh, I hadn't thought about it like that. And I think I learned that at the Actors Centre for sure.
Wow. And that permission is really, I mean, I mentioned to you after I saw you in your one-man show in Adelaide, and when you come out doing Peter Allen and you get a person from the audience, what was that guy's name you got up? Roger, or I forget what his name was.
Oh yeah. I'm seeing it in my head. I can't remember the name now.
Yeah, it'll come to me. But he was so funny that I've never seen it happen before on stage. You lay down on your back and you put the microphone on your chest, and you laughed and you couldn't get up. And the audience were in hysterics because of it.
He was so funny. I remember, I think I said to him, I said, dude, everyone's going to think you're a plant. This is just way too good, you know?
Yes.
And actually, it's a good one. Like, that's a good example of permission, because I remember when I first did The Boy from Oz on Broadway, and I had the idea in my head, I think I should do what Peter did all the time, which is stop the show and just start ad-libbing. He did it all the time. And so I remember the director said, I don't think it's a good idea. We tried in rehearsal, in a rehearsal room, didn't quite work. Anyway, I remember about 8 weeks into the run, something happened. That's right. It was the Baseball World Series, and it was the final. And so you're in New York, the Yankees are playing, and I'm looking out there and I'm talking to the audience, and literally a third of the audience are looking at their phones. Someone's just hit a home run, like all the guys in the audience like this. And at the time, I remember the line was, I know what you're thinking, is he or isn't he? And so I said, I know what you're thinking. Who's winning the baseball? And I saw the whole audience look up. And I look into the wings. I said, who's winning the baseball? They want to know. And we can't go on until they know who's winning. And the stage manager's looking at me like, I don't know. I said, has anyone got? So I ran off the stage, and I ran up into my dressing room because the baseball was on, because I'm a sports nut. And I ran back down and I told them the score. I ended up getting a letter the next day of rebuke, like a kind of, that's not professional. You can't do something like that. And I understood why I got the letter, but I wrote back and I said, you know what? I understand why you're saying that, but it did work. And I can tell you that changed everything, because I was a narrator through the play. And for the first third of the play, they were looking at me like, oh, it's scripted narration. There's the narrator. And from that moment on, every time I spoke to them, they were looking at me like, when you'd run, and that changed everything. And I was really nervous about doing something like that. I never would have said I can ad-lib for 10 minutes a night. But I think by just sort of going with it, being prepared to fail, taking that risk and giving myself permission, I guess, really changed something in my head, that when you get those gut instincts, and that guy in Adelaide was the same. People used to say to me, how do you pick someone from the audience? I don't know. I just go with my gut. And by the way, it doesn't always work out, but thanks for remembering Roger. Let's call him Roger anyway.
Yeah. And Peter Allen would have gone and got the score as well. I mean, I was very, very lucky when I was 20 years of age. I interviewed Peter backstage, and I was so excited to meet him. And I said, what's the most important thing to you about what you do? And I'm a kid. I'm 20 years of age, just bright-eyed and bushy-tailed. And he said, the audience. Yeah. He said, the audience is the most important thing. And I'm only there for them. And there was something about that had stayed with me all the way through. Yeah. And it's true.
It's totally true. And we can sometimes get caught up in that. Sometimes when you're training, when you're with the same 18, 20, 25 people every day for 3 years, you can kind of get, why is that one getting cast or this? But remembering this is a story that we're telling around a campfire to whatever audience we've got. And it's a privilege to tell it. And it's a privilege that they're listening. And fight for your character. I was, just before we came on, I was remembering your lesson, which I've never forgotten. You drew a graph of your objective in a scene, and you talked about uh, oh, the words just jumped out of my head. Things going on in your mind. What?
The extrinsics.
Extrinsics. Thank you. That was, I remember going, that's how I feel a lot of the time. There's so many things going on in my mind. What do I have to do to focus myself, to stay present, to simply listen, to just follow my objective, to be in the moment? Those extrinsics will never, ever go away, no matter what you do. As an actor and in life, they are there. But being able to recognize it and train yourself so that when you are acting, you use just the minimum amount of extrinsics. They're never going away, and they shouldn't go away. There's always should be a little part of your brain that's monitoring how you're doing, how the scene's going, how just a little bit. Not, it can't dominate. And I think that was a big turning point for me. That whole lesson about extrinsics.
Well, it's true. The extrinsics, as you say, will never go away, and they're all the things that will get in the way if we focus on them. And the intrinsics are our power source. It's what we plug into. It's the story. It's the person you're looking into in their eyes. It's the audience listening. It's someone coughing, someone arriving late. Doesn't matter what it is, but we're in this moment. And I remember seeing a fantastic photograph, I didn't tell you, of you standing backstage at the Tony Awards before you're about to come on and host it. And you were facing across the stage, and the proscenium march was behind you. And out there were 3 billion people watching, and 4,000 people in the audience. And I could see your sense of anticipation and expectation, but I could also see in your eyes, let's do it. Let's tell this story.
Yeah. And just be there. And it's it's a hard thing. And I think I've always, from the training I did, and maybe part of it's natural, and I've seen it for different actors, some of them the best I've ever seen, who look so vulnerable in the wings, but then can go out. So that's not the only way to be. So if you listen to this, don't think, right, I've got to stand like that in the wings. That's sort of what works for me. And you will work that out, and never stop questioning yourself about what works for you. What is it that has you in that optimum state of mind when you perform? What is it that gets you? And I write it down, like particularly the beginning when I was auditioning. That didn't feel like a good audition. What was it? Was there something happening in my personal life? Was I not prepared enough? Whatever. But to this day, if I'm preparing something, I will think, okay, if I'm scared about it, what do I need to do to take out that good side of fear? The side of fear that makes you work hard, the side of fear that makes you read through the script 15 times, the side of the fear which makes you learn your lines before you turn up day one of rehearsal because you don't want to spend a whole time staring at a book, the side of fear that actually pushes you to be your best. But then it can tip over into something that is destructive and not helpful and takes away the fun of it. The kind of beating yourself up, you can do better, you're not good enough, and why would they give you the part? The other person in the scene's doing better than you, you're letting everyone do all that stuff. What do I need to do in order to turn up feeling like I've done my work? I deserve to be here. I deserve this audition. And I deserve to have this part, or this is going to be a great show, whatever it is. Tick that off, write it down. Okay, I need to work 3 days a week. So for me, singing, I need to sing. I know I need to sing 5 days a week. I need to do a lesson every week. And if I haven't done that, then I'm just not, my head will start playing loops of, you're not a singer, you're an actor. You became a singer. What are you doing? You're not a thing, and it gets carried away. So working out whatever it is that makes you, as Dean was saying, that moment in the wings where you feel like, let's do this, let's have some fun, let's go for it.
Yeah.
I talk too much. Sorry, guys.
No, it's fantastic. I mean, it's great because tomorrow we're opening our applications for our 2021 intake. And I can't think of a better time to take 3 years out and to graduate in 2024 when the industry is invigorated and powerful again and energized. What advice would you give people who are going to audition for ACA?
Yes, do it. First of all, it's a great place, and not all acting schools are a healthy place, I don't think. I was very blessed. ACA was the most incredible start for me, because I really gained my confidence and I really gained an understanding. More to the point, I gained a love for the craft. I gained a sense of, this is a really honorable profession. And if you really take it seriously and you're really doing it in the right way, it can be a very fulfilling life. And I think having that nurturing place that is going to see that you don't have to be you don't have to be a Meryl Streep to be successful. You don't have to be a Daniel Day-Lewis. You don't have to be this kind of actor. What ACA does really well, I think, is just help you be more of you, to understand how you learn, and it teaches you how to learn. I remember on the first day, you're not here the next year or next 3 years of your life. We're not going to teach you how to act. We're going to teach you how to learn, and you will never stop learning. I've never stopped. So being in a place where that is the focus is phenomenal. And I agree with you, Dean. I think if you can take the time now to really work on yourself and your craft, I'm someone who is so grateful that I went and did 4 years of study. I don't know if people know the story, but I remember ringing Dean after my audition. I did the callback audition for Whopper. So I'd had a year at the ACA Centre with him, and I went for Whopper. And at the same time, I'd been offered a job on Neighbours, and I really didn't know what to do. Some people, my agent included, was like, well, you should go, you earn some money and then go off and study for 3 months somewhere. But something in me just knew that I wanted to be able to feel like I deserve an audition at the Royal Shakespeare Company, at the Royal National Theatre, at the Sydney Theatre Company, wherever it was at that time. And I thought, well, being a year or two in Neighbours, will that make me feel that? And the answer was no. So particularly when you're starting, and by the way, I was 26 when I graduated. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm 20, I've got to get started, don't worry about it. Invest the time if you can, and you get accepted. Investing that time in yourself and studying will pay off so in dividends. I can't tell you how much it will pay off. So anyway, that was a decision that changed my life, and I really wish all of you all the best who are auditioning. I auditioned for NIDA, by the way, and I got cut the first lunch. So, you know, if you audition for ACA, you don't get it, it doesn't mean it's over. And none of this means, it just means you're on a certain part of your journey, but just keep going, find somewhere to work, keep doing classes. If you don't get into the full-time course, do a 6-week course, just start to get your feet, you know, and go for it. Just go for it.
Yeah, it's so true, because the foundation of ACA is the premise that everyone is okay as they are, and there's more. So you're okay as you are. So everything you know and don't know, can do, can't do, worried about, confident about, that all is what it is. Let's go from there and go, what's next?
And I think the industry is reflecting that now. I don't think it always has. I think it's a far better place now to go out and just be yourself. You don't have to necessarily look a certain way. You don't have to be a certain age, your hair color this way, your skin color this way, boy, girl. Like, I think it's in that way, thankfully on screen, we're starting to see some real diversity and some reality, you know, see where people really are. So that philosophy is everything. And I wish the whole world was like that.
Well, it creates a different mindset. And on that, I might go to David Chiem now, who's our chairman, who you met in Adelaide when we were down there. David, welcome.
Hi. Good to see you again, Hugh. And
hey, David.
Wow, how I mean, since we last met, how the world has changed. You know, when we met, the world we live in today, and you know, in some ways, how we handle this and how we face the world, the complex world that we are in today, is really, you know, essentially what you've been talking about. Is depending on the mindset that we adopt.
Yeah.
You know, and you know, I remember myself being a theatre student some over 30 years ago. You know, contemplating about how theatre, in many ways, like life, is about the process of becoming. And you know, in theatre class, we were learning, like you were talking about, how to become different characters. You know, like for example, how do you become Shakespeare's Hamlet? But ultimately, you know, as we know in life, it's about ultimately becoming the person that we are. You know, the most important. character that we will ever play is the person that we are. And
Mm.
so I'd love to just dive into Hugh, especially the person that you have become. That process of becoming, Hugh Jackman, especially known around the world by many. You've probably heard this so many times as being the nicest superstar in Hollywood. And so in this process of becoming, I'd love to just dive in there into 3 different stages of, and this will really help and inspire our students. The first stage being, and also for our educators and all listening around the world right now, tuning in. But in the first stage, Hugh, the process of becoming for you, the mindset that you bring when you came to class every day. Let's say when you were at the ACA, what's that mindset that you brought to class every day?
It's a great question. First of all, I loved it. I was so happy that I got in. I think from memory, David, I got in off the reserve list. I just sort of snuck in there, but I felt very blessed to have this opportunity to dive into it, because the moment I walked in, I was like, oh, this is my tribe, this is my people, and I'm loving it. I don't actually remember thinking beyond the course, and I'm glad I didn't. I think there can be a lot of emphasis of, well, who's going to be the successful one in this year? Who's this? Oh, this one's going to have a career, that one, or people are out looking for it. I don't remember that. I just remembered loving the purity of learning about acting, the craft of acting, reading books, watching movies, going to the theater, going in every day and trying things out. And I think trying things out is actually a probably great phrase. That's within yourself, pushing yourself. Like, I really made some, I think, can think back, embarrassing things. But one thing I never was held back by fear. I had fear. Almost every time I got up to do something, I would be nervous, right? Particularly at the beginning. But I would put my hand up first. Like if they said, who wants to get up? I had a little rule. I'm like, I'm getting up. Mainly because I was nervous and I didn't want to sit there for an hour and a half while everyone else is just stewing. But in some ways also because let's just go, okay? Like, this may not work well, but let's go with my instincts. Let's trust. It's okay to fall down. And when you go to a school, that's the thing. Every school, you wouldn't get in unless you had the talent. They will only kick you out if you're not taking it seriously or taking use of the opportunity that you have. So if you're really putting in, it doesn't matter if it doesn't work. You try something, you make a choice, you go for it. And I think that was very much what I was thinking. I want to make the most of this. I want to learn as much as I can. And I was a little older. I started training when I was 23. So I was constantly pushing myself, I think. And I think that's something, and if I remember back, never getting too caught up in the politics of the year. I don't care what group you are, if you're actors, journalists, doesn't matter. If you have a group of people together, sometimes there's some politics, or this person, you get on with that, or you're dating this one, then they're broken up. All those machinations will happen and will play out. And I can guarantee you 5 years after you graduate, you'll forget all of them. You'll all just be good friends and you'll all have just moved on. So constantly reminding yourself that I'm there to learn, to act, so I can contribute to this industry in the future is a good mindset to have.
Well, to stay focused and really break through those fears that we all have, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, because, I went to see Angels in America. I was in London. My mum lived in London. So in between the summer break, I went to London. I had standing room tickets for Angels in America, which was about 7 hours of standing up. It was one of the greatest things I've ever seen. And that's where it really dawned on me that sometimes you can get caught up in, oh, this is how I'm doing in my class. Like, I feel like I'm one of the better ones, or this. And I was like, this has got nothing to do with my class. There's 3,000 people exactly like me, that look like me, that are the same height as me, that probably have the same. That's who I'm going to be competing for a job with. It's not Billy, who I'm in the class with. It's not Joanne over there. Like, let's just support each other to get through, because when you get out there, you just want to be the best version of yourself.
Wow, that's fantastic. And moving on to the next stage, once you were facing the industry, the real world, what was the mindset you then brought to work every day, when you're facing that real world?
I'm so glad I don't have to audition all the time anymore. I know some people who are, good actors, not great, but are brilliant at auditions, like brilliant cold readers, and that is such a great skill. But I'm glad. I think I was a 50-50 auditioner. But when I went out into the business, I was 26. I'd worked in every restaurant, gas station, you name it. I'd worked everywhere, and I'd realized at that point that in a way, when you start off as an actor, you are starting a small business, right? The brand is your name, your reputation. You will build. People will get to know you, hopefully, and go, "Oh yeah, I like that brand, that guy. He's good to work with. He's easy." All of that thing, which I learned at the Actors Centre, is true about the business. And of all the places I worked, the ones that were successful for the first 5 years of that business, they worked 7 days a week, 12 hours a day. So I said, okay, well, I'm an actor. I'm not going to wait one day for that phone to ring. And so I made myself a 5-year contract that I will work 7 days a week. I will write letters, which I did. I wrote letters to producers. Can I have an audition? I would ring every casting agent in town and saying, hey, do you need someone to read in the auditions? Because I wanted to learn about auditioning. So I would read at auditions. Me and Simon Linden and Jeremy Cumston were going to start a theatre company, which I ended up getting a job straight off. And they did start a theatre company, the Tamarama Rock Surfers, which is still going in Sydney. But in my mind, I was like, I'm not just going to be a victim waiting or feel like a victim waiting. Everyone can tell you the stats that it's really hard to get a job, only a certain amount of actors. And of course, right now it's almost impossible, but that won't last for long, by the way. And in the bigger picture of things, for those of you terrified about the work situation right now, when things get back to normal, whenever that is, it's actually probably the golden age of acting. There is probably more product happening, more opportunities. So many things are shooting, because you've got and Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, everyone is making product. More actors are working now, I would say, than ever in history, not right now. So that's a little aside. But just do it. Do it. So for me, I was like, I'm going to do 5 years because I'll be 31. And if I need to move on, if I can't pay my rent, I'll move on. I'll do something else, And at 31, I actually re-signed with myself for another 5 years. So there's that, I think I'm really glad I had that experience. And just briefly, if I can, the auditioning thing, I learned some really good things early on, and it was through trial and error and making a mistake. But I've been on the other side of the desk now as a producer, and I've seen what people want. And I promise you, they are so nervous, the director and the producer, that you walking in the door, they're not thinking, is this a good actor or not? They think you're an actor, right? So you're an actor. So don't take that out of your head. What they want you to do when you walk in that door is they want the weight off their shoulders of finding the person for that part. They want the next person to walk in to kind of scream at them to say, I'm Wolverine. I've got the job. Don't worry about it. I got this. This is mine, and I'll do it, and I'm going to do a great job. So you can worry about your 9 million other things you've got to worry about, the locations of this, the scouting, the shooting, all the other parts. They're nervous and they want you to. So what I would do is go into an audition thinking it was my first rehearsal. Because when you go into a first rehearsal, you go in with it's a different mindset than, hey, please like me, please give me the job, to, all right, let's work on this. Okay, how should this scene go? And almost always I would ask, can I say that again? I think maybe we could do it this way. Or if they gave me a chair to sit down in, I'd say, I think it'd be better standing. It was just, I'm trying to make that environment my own, make the part my own, not arrogant, not taking over. This is not, but just, we're working on this character. We're not going to solve it here today in this audition, but we're going to work on it. And I got something, and I would, even if someone's reading with me and they're a casting agent, they're looking down at the paper, I would act with them as though my life depended on it. I'd look at them in the eye and I would demand them to look at me. I'm not sort of, so just that mental state, that mindset really helped me going in.
Wow. I mean, that's fantastic. I mean, that mindset you talk about in terms of even just creating your own brand, you know, once you go to the world, because that's a combination of then who you become, isn't it? How you remember it as well.
Yeah, well, you know, there's practicalities. I've seen people lose jobs because I've heard people say, oh, you know, they're difficult to work with. It's tough. And they'll think, oh, you know, they say, well, they're really good. And they go, well, this other person's really good too. And it's just a lot more fun and easier. And we're going to get it done in time. And people go, oh, give me that. I'll take that guy, you know.
Yes.
That's just a reality. So I think you don't have to be obsequious. In fact, that often that will put people off. But what people call professional, which is giving of your all, being obviously playing the part well, contributing to the storytelling, contributing to the atmosphere that everyone is telling that story in, being a supportive cast member, being ready.
Yes.
People in the theatre rehearsals, people who are sitting there watching, supporting, listening, being part of the ensemble. You'll learn all that at the Actors Centre, but they're really important things.
Yeah, wonderful. And you've definitely become a very most obviously a powerful brand, Hugh. And being that brand today, who you are, as you know, at this phase of your life, you know, what's the mindset that you now, you know, face the world, you know, today with?
I try to forget it. I try to forget the brand or the label. Thank you for saying nicest guy, but I try to let all that, because we're all actors. I'm capable of being a really not nice guy, actually, you know. And you're right. I was brought up most of the time to be pretty polite, and people will go, oh, often they'll give me a bit of a free pass because they think, oh, he's a movie star, he's going to be a dick, right? But so sometimes I get a bit of a free pass, but I think it's really important to forget all that stuff and start afresh, because that's how it feels when you act. I've now done 30 movies. I've done a bunch of stage shows, but I'm going to do The Music Man on Broadway. Never played that part. So yeah, I'm bringing in some experience, but I've never done that before. So I'm going to go into it with that mindset. And, you know, maybe I always remember that great movie Comedians, which if you haven't seen it, with Jerry Seinfeld, is one of the greatest documentaries. They follow him for a year as he's creating his new act after the TV show. I think it's one of the great movies about the creative mindset and how difficult it is. And he said, look, yeah, okay, I'm Jerry Seinfeld. I walk onto a stage at the Comedy Store in New York. They're going to go ballistic. But within a minute, if I'm not making them laugh, it's going to be crickets, right? So, and it's a bit the same for me. Maybe I get a free pass at this point for the first day, but not on the second day or the third day. You know what I mean? So I try to forget all that and just create. Again, keep creating.
Fantastic. That's wonderful.
Keep learning.
Fantastic. Yeah. I mean, great mindset to have, to be able to reset that and keep on growing. Now, I know that our wonderful teachers at ACA have some questions. So, Dean, would you like
to? Good.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Thanks, David. Hugh, you've met Adam Cook, who's our wonderful head of acting. And Adam, welcome.
G'day, Adam.
G'day, Hugh. How you going?
Going great, mate.
Good. Now, a large part of our audience are actors in training, particularly the students that are under our care at the moment. So I'm so thrilled that so much of what you said has been gold for our students. Training. Can I ask you, what do you see as the enduring value of actor training, and how have you drawn on it in your career?
Well, one of the great acting teachers that Dean and I know well, and I'm sure you met him, Adam Lyle Jones, who just passed away. Yeah. I remember at WAPA day one, he said, all of you on your day can be brilliant. All of you are going to be terrific when the planets are lined up. You're going to be incredible. These next 3 years are about the other 90% of the time. And never a truer word has been spoken, because sometimes it just all works. It's like anything. You just go, oh, this job is easy. I'm nailing this. Hamlet, it's easy. I've got it, you know. And then you're going to wake up one day and you've had an argument, you're not feeling great, or for whatever reason, a laugh that you've had for 6 months on stage, you go on stage and it's nothing, and then you start to think, oh, I lost that laugh. Who knows what it is? But the craft, what you're learning, is actually about that other 90% of the time. And because it will feel like that. It'll be about 10% of the time you'll feel like, yeah, that was all right. And about 90% of the time you think, oh, I really could have done better. But instead of imploding, beating yourself up, kind of collapsing on stage, the techniques you're going to learn, the mindset you will learn, the way to study, I like scaffold that will hold you together at all times. So, and I can't tell you how many times little things that teachers have said still come into my head, still remind me. So taking the time to study, particularly acting, and I often say, people say, why are Australians doing so well? And I said, well, most of them have studied for like 3 years. And in America, most haven't. So you're learning a lot of stuff away from the cauldron of the profession. And it is, for good reason, a cauldron. No one's going to call you after your audition and give you feedback like, Adam, that was good, but listen, I feel like you're slightly judging the character. You just don't get a call, or you get the job. So these 3 years or 4 years or 1 year, whatever it is the time for you to get that feedback, to massage it, to work on it,
Thank you.
Fantastic. Thanks, Adam. Hugh, Troy, I'm crossing to Troy now, and Troy is a wonderful, wonderful actor and director and teacher here. He was in the musical theatre world for many years, and then he came and studied at ACA, and now he's one of our most wonderful, wonderful teachers. So, Troy, come on in.
Hi, mate.
Hey,
how
Troy.
are you?
Hey,
nice
Troy.
to see you. How are you? Yeah, I did spend time in musical theatre. I was one of the original cast members of Boy from Oz, which you obviously also did as well. Not your version.
Wow.
With Todd, yeah.
Who did you play?
I actually was just one of the ensemble. Not just, but I was part of the ensemble. Yeah. But I had a great time. Like Adam said, so much of what you said is just backs up everything we teach here. So it's so great for the students to hear it from someone like yourself as well, and that the ethos of ACA hasn't changed over the years. It's really, really cool. Which also makes me feel better about asking a question that more personally I wanted to know about, as opposed to something for the students, which is cool. Right. Just because it epitomizes for me this moment you had of what it is to be not just an actor but an artist, where that hunger and passion and drive to be a part of something or tell a story becomes so overwhelming that you have to act on it. And it was when there's this great behind the scenes moment from when you were trying to get the Greatest Showman green lit, and you'd had an operation on your nose, and so you actually couldn't sing. You know exactly where I'm going with this. And so what they did, they brought in a singer to sing for you, and you just had to stand there and sort of act out the moments and stuff, and which was great and fine. But then it came to the song From Now On, and you can see it building within you, this want to go, and you do, and then the place just erupts in electricity. It is just one of the most electric things I've ever seen, and anyone who's done musical theatre knows like the sits probe is one of the most exciting things you can be a part of, and this was like that on heat. And more than anything, what I wanted to know was, what was it about that moment that overcame you and had to be a part of it, and just what was it like to be in the room at that moment, because it's incredible to watch.
Yeah, thanks. Actually, the director, Michael Gracie, pulled me aside after and said, were you playing that all along? Because that's one of the greatest things I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And I just said, no, like the doctor had said, I literally had 80 stitches in my nose. And he said, it's not the first skin cancer I'd had, and it had happened before where a stitch had gone and got infected, and it was a nightmare. So the same doctor said, you cannot sing. Singing, blood to the head, the singing, nose, blood, they're going to split. And so I only began to sing that song because it was actually quieter than speaking. So I'd spoken all the lines. I figured, well, I'll just do the beginning bit. And it's such a epiphany moment. It's like Anthem in chess. It's just one of those great songs. Being Alive in Company. It's just one of those great songs where you see someone's heart rip open and you see their life change. Or the soliloquy in Les Mis, it's that you have to believe by the end of the song that their life will be completely different after it. And so I started, and I just couldn't stop. And I just made myself believe the nose will be fine. I think I forgot about the nose together. And I'd been very frustrated not to sing.
Yeah.
And the director, by the way, Michael, was like, I have everyone flown in from around the world, like heads of studios, heads of lots of places. So he didn't tell anyone. He said, if I tell him the musical you want with $80 million for, starring Hugh Jackman, and Hugh Jackman's not going to sing, by the way, he said, none of them are coming. So I was so frustrated. We'd worked for 8 years to get to that point. And I think I was just in that moment, and I could feel that turn. I could feel that character within me wanting to speak. And so I thought, I'll just start speaking, and at some point I'll let it go. And I just couldn't let it go.
Yeah.
And I think maybe it worked, actually, Troy, because it's one of the difficult things with a song, when you're acting a song, particularly one of those big turning point songs, to just allow it to happen. And because I'd never thought I was going to sing it, it just sort of happened naturally. And I hadn't planned it out. It wasn't like, right, in the third verse, I'm going to start crying. And in the fourth verse, I'm going to, you know, or whatever. It just sort of flowed. Anyway, that was the moment behind that. But yeah.
I'm going to post it onto our Facebook page after this, just so anyone who hasn't seen it can see it, because it's an incredible moment. But now that you said that, it would, like, the director thought it may have been a ruse, I would love at the end of it if you just went, all right, there you go, that's great, and then walked out.
It would have been good, but I'm not that Machiavellian, unfortunately. It's not in my blood.
Yeah. That's great. Thank you. That was for me personally. Thank you.
Pleasure, Troy. Good to see you, man.
You too, mate. Thanks.
Hey, thanks, Troy. Hugh, we're going to cross to Pip Edwards now, who's a fantastic camera teacher. And I know that Hugh, you love theatre as much as you love film. And some people don't love both or can't do both as easily. And Pip is a wonderful person to allow actors to feel comfortable and alive and creative inside that medium. So, Pip, welcome.
Thank you. And thank you, Hugh. I'm loving what you're saying. I'm loving it, and the joy of the craft. And something that I'm really interested in, you've already touched on this a little bit, but I think I love the fact that you have such a strong work ethic, but there's so much joy with the work and the craft. And you spoke a little bit about those early career days when you first graduated and working 7 days a week and mindset. I love what you've said about mindset, but I'm really interested in some of the things that you did in those early career stages in getting your career moving.
Yeah, good question. Well, in many ways, I was lucky. I went straight into first of all, I said yes to everything. I learned that from Dina. Say yes. You say yes in the scene. You say yes in that improv. Yeah. And when you get asked to audition for a musical, even though you've never sung before, you say, yeah, sure. Right? Kind of whatever path it leads you to, you know, obviously within reason, but just say yes, and yes in your heart, like go for it. And I got cast in an ABC series pretty much straight out of college, which was super lucky. I won't bore you with the whole details, but and then I kind of went on to do Beauty and the Beast after that. But I was in that period auditioning, saying yes to everything. I was working. I would read. I remember reading opposite Rachel Griffiths and a bunch of people. I would read when I wasn't working, you know, like at a casting agents, because I learned a lot that way. Because for one, you're going to see 50 people read the same scene in complete, and watch how they conduct themselves in an audition. But more importantly, you're going to hear what the casting director says when they walk out. That's when I learned everything. And by the way, it's not all pretty. It's not all discussion about the performance. A lot of it's about, oh, what a pain, what are this, or that, or oh, I love this. But sometimes it's like, oh, can't we find? I know she's not right for this, but what else can we give it? Like, you just realize there's a lot of that going on. And also how people just are never going to get the job from the moment they walk in. Because I think what I learned in that is belief. Whatever you've got to do to make yourself believe. And it's the same doing a scene on stage anywhere. You've got to believe you're that character. You've got to believe that you deserve it. If any part of you is saying, oh, I'm going to give this my best shot, I'm going to, you know, give myself a little safety net underneath if I don't get the part, or if any part of you is like, oh, well, there's 10 people out in the hallway there waiting that are better looking for me, or they're taller, or they're skinnier, or they're this or that. Any part of that comes into your performance, that person hardly ever, if ever, got the part. It's the ones that believe, and you know it. We know it in life. You can smell it on people in all aspects of your life, right? When someone's cooking for you, when someone's cutting your hair, you just know the moment they touch your hair, like, oh, okay, I can relax here. I'm in good hands, right? So I learned that when I was reading. And by the way, ask any, and I never got paid for it. Just say, hey, I'll read for free. And they all want someone, because otherwise they've got to pay, or they're going to read it themselves and operate the camera, and it's a pain. So it's a great way to learn.
It really sounds like mindset is such a pivotal part of your journey and your success.
Yeah.
And
well, I think it is in life for everybody, right? Sorry, Pip, I missed that one.
Yeah, no, just the I'm repeatedly, like, I'm loving everything you're talking about, mindset, the audition mindset, how you're entering a room. It's so powerful.
Well, I'm still learning on it.
Yeah.
My wife has taught me a lot. She's a big manifester, and I was always a bit dubious about that, but it really works. Like, remember that old, I don't know if you've done, a bunch of the students will know that one where you are just walking through a room and you say, let me pass, let me pass. And they're not going to move unless they feel that you deserve to move, right? It's a bit, so whether you're on stage, and if my objective is to, whatever, to seduce you, whatever it is, to undermine you, I have to believe I'm going to do that. And I have to believe, right? So when you walk into that room, that mindset is everything. And I think on film, it is exacerbated even more. The camera can see it. The camera can feel it in a really big way. It took me a long time. I'm so glad that ACA does so much now in film, because not because people think, oh, it's such a different technique. And of course there's slightly different techniques, but it's not really. It's all the same thing. But I did not feel comfortable in front of a camera, I would say, for a number of years. It took me a long time to feel as comfortable. It felt very stop-start. I felt quite self-conscious. It just felt weird to me. And the closer the camera would come in the early days, you feel everyone's going, this is the important take.
It's right into your soul.
Right?
Yeah.
Just relax, and then I just relax. And I'm going, relax, don't relax. It's okay, I got it.
Yeah.
It took me a while, so it's really great. And Pip, the fact that you can make students feel comfortable as possible in that medium is really important. Mm. And by the way, as you know, there's a million different ways to do that. Mm. And I've seen people do the weirdest things on big movie sets. And I now believe the more honest you are with a director, the better it is. I didn't used to believe that. I used to think my job, I'm the lead in this film. I've just got to do it. No one wants to hear that I'm struggling, or that was difficult, I'm just not feeling good today. Or now I'm honest about that. I'll just say, Pip, can we go again? I just didn't feel free. I felt a bit, and it would really help me if we could just do 2 takes in a row. Is that okay? We do 2 and we don't stop. I just would like to do 2 in a row. And I learned that a lot of actors do that.
That's so, what you're saying is so valuable, because I find with the training, the actors, if they feel free to let their impulses come, they actually have wonderful impulses. They can act, but it's the fear of going, oh, I don't want to be too much trouble. I don't want to ask for a take. That stops those beautiful impulses emerging.
Right. Yeah, I couldn't agree more. And I think I was one of those. I was brought up very much manners, be polite, don't be that difficult, all of that thing. And not that I'm ever aiming to be difficult, or I'm ever aiming, but in the end, a whole day of filming, 12 hours, is 1:40 or 2 minutes on the screen. We have time, like, it's okay. We're looking for 2 minutes of magic out of 12 hours of work. It's okay to kind of go, oh, this just doesn't feel right. Let's go again. Can we go again? Or, sorry guys, I feel really, there's people walking around over there and I'm distracted. It's not your fault. I know you're doing your job, but I'm just finding it hard. I'm a bit in my head, and you watch, everyone said, no problem. What do you need? So I think whatever it takes for you to get into something, you do it. I worked with, I remember Greg Kinnear just yelling at one point in the middle of a scene, going, like this, and I was, and he goes, all right, let's go. I feel good now. He just had some tension and he just had to get rid of it. But he never felt embarrassed. And I was like, oh, I see. It's what you do. Okay. You can do that. So it's great you're teaching that, Pip.
Yeah, thanks, Pip.
Thank you.
Fantastic.
Thank
Yeah,
you.
it's so interesting about mindset, because mindset to me is context. And context is, that goes back to that great phrase, whatever you focus on and give your energy to will grow. So if you focus on and give your energy to something wonderful, something rich, something compelling, something meaningful, all those extrinsics we talked about before will fly out the window.
Totally.
So interesting.
It's the old, if you're driving down the road and you're like, don't hit the tree, don't hit the tree, don't hit it, you're going to hit the tree, right? So whatever it is, or the other famous saying, whether you think you're right or think you're wrong, you're right. Like, whatever you're thinking is where you'll end up going. And that's where the preparation and the work needs to come in. You need to make sure that you are really on track and within yourself as well, in order to let those extrinsics go.
Yeah. Great. So I'm aware of time. We've got about 10 minutes left, I think, Hugh. Thank you. And we're going to cross now to one of our first year students, Taya, who's got a question Taya. For you.
Hi, Hugh.
Hey, Taya.
Yeah, well, we were talking about how your career has incorporated so much diversity from musical theatre to film. And I was wondering how your base in theatre really shaped you as you entered the film industry, and if that was a distinct choice you made to make that transition.
No, I was just saying yes. And I think, as you know, in Australia, it's particularly when I was starting, there wasn't as much work. You said yes. You said yes to the musical. You said yes to the play. You said yes to the TV series. You kind of said, yes, I'm working. This is fantastic and I'm learning. So, but I'd always felt very much at home on the stage. And I think doing 4 years of training, which was largely stage work, just sort of exacerbated that natural propensity I had. But I was really keen. What I loved about acting, what I loved about being at ACA was we were doing voice, we were doing Shakespeare, we were doing circus skills, we were tap dance, like we were doing everything. I loved all of that. Some people found it frustrating, like, just want to do modern drama. I just want to do this scenes. I just want to do play. Why are we doing ballet? And remember back those days we had to swim in the mall. I just loved all of that stuff. And so when I started off acting, I was like, I'm going to keep as many doors open as I can. At some point, maybe they'll slam in my face because I give a bad performance or I can't get a part or whatever, but I'm going to try and keep them all open. And I'm really glad I did, because I've been very lucky. There was a certain point in my career where I was getting feedback that it was a negative. Like, who are you, man? Are you Wolverine or the Boy from Oz? Your musicals? Like, you got to pick a lane. Pick a lane. Everyone would say, pick a lane. And I said, yeah, I picked a lane. I'm an actor, and I act while I'm singing, and I act while I'm dancing, and I act while I'm on screen. I act while I'm on stage. I'm an actor. So I would just encourage you just to keep as many doors open as possible, as many options open as possible. How are you doing? Yes. How are you feeling? It must be really difficult.
First year, my eyes have been opened. I'm absolutely loving it.
That's great.
Yeah.
If there's any other first years, from my perspective, it took me about 3 months to feel how you're feeling now. It was weirdly an exercise we were doing. Never in your class as Dean, by the way, but I was like, I think I'm the dunce of the class here. Like, everyone else seems to be way ahead here. And I think it was we were doing an animal workshop, so I was playing a meerkat. And I just remember going, I'm starting to get it. It just took me a while. It took me a little while to kind of work it out. So be patient with yourself.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Great, thanks, Taya. Hey, we're going to go to a second year student now. Hugh, you're going to meet Bonnie.
Hi.
Hey, Bonnie.
Hi, how you going?
I'm going great.
That's good. My question for you is, what's the last thing you do before you walk on set or onto stage? Like, what's the last thing that you need to do to prepare yourself?
I fall still. I do what I call a pause. So let's say it's staged. Even if I'm not on at the beginning, I like to go down just before the curtain comes up, because I love that sound of the audience, the tittering, chatting, anticipation, this little turn off your cell phone thing, all that stuff I love. And then I just fall still, probably for 30 or 40 seconds. and I just connect to the senses. I try to make it as simple as possible. And then I just say a little thing in my head, which is, I dedicate this performance to the audience. That's what I say in my head. And I actually say I dedicate this to the service of the audience. So I just try to fall still, get my breathing in line, and then remind myself of why I'm doing it. And that seems to get me in the best place to go on. And I do the same sort of mini thing when I'm on film as well.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great. Thanks, Bonnie. And we're going to cross now to Saro, who's in year 3.
Hey,
Sarah. Hey, Sarah. I like your shirt, man.
Thank you. Hugh, you spoke a lot about always learning to this day, which I love. So what's one thing that you've learned from working with someone in your career, maybe recently, that you were like, I can't believe I hadn't thought of that. That helps me so much with my acting.
So I learned from Jason Reitman. I did a film with him called The Front Runner. And we were having a chat one day on set, and we were about to film, I think, the most important scene of the movie. You know, when you go through a script, you're like, all right, those 3 scenes, I better be on it that day. And you maybe don't sleep quite as well the night before. You maybe wake up, first thought is like, oh, okay, I got that scene, right? So I see Pip smiling, and then, like, we all know that feeling. And I went in and I was just chatting with him. He was like, hey, man. And I was like, hey. He goes, you good? I said, yeah, I'm good. And then I could tell he was looking at me like, you seem a little tight, right? You seem a little tight today. So about a minute later, I went over to him. I said, not 100%. And he goes, yeah, I can tell. And I took a deep breath. I'm taking a little breath now. And I just said, I'm nervous, man. I know this is probably the big turning point scene. I know we've got to deliver today, and I just feel a little tight, and I feel a little in my head. And I never, ever in my life said that to a director, right? And I'll never forget, he just said to me, he goes, thank God you just told me that. I'm so nervous today too. He goes, I'm nervous every single day. But he goes, my job is to make sure that when you go home tonight and every night of this film, that you are absolutely brilliant. He goes, it's not your job to be brilliant. It's my job to make you brilliant. And I promise you, I will never let you go home until that scene is the best it can be. And I almost wanted to cry. Might have missed it up a little bit, but I just felt all that go down, and that feeling of, oh, it's okay. He's not sitting there going, oh, Hugh, you better be on it today. This is the most important scene. It's like, I'm nervous. I'm directing you. I know we're going to do it together, and we're not going to go home till we got it. And if we don't get it today, we'll come back tomorrow and get it again, you know? And I think that lesson that I learned, trusting, being open with the people. I think being open with your fellow actors, your scene partners is important, because, by the way, it's not always going to be like that. Some days you'll just be like, smashing this, like I got this, right? But some days you just won't. Some days you'll feel, or you'll start great and then take 3 or 4 won't be good, or you'll start funky and take 3 will be great, and you're never quite sure why. I know, sorry, we're going to wrap up, but Denis Villeneuve, I did Prisoners with. I remember there's a scene with Paul Dano where I have to interrogate him, and I was so exhausted. We'd been going for 4 hours. It was a very emotional scene. And I was sitting on the floor, like of the set, and he came up to me, a little smile on his face. And Denis, he's French Canadian. He's always like, I love it, I love it, I love it, I love it. I love it. And he came over and he goes, Hugh. And he had a smile, and I was sure he was going to say, I love it. And he just said, I need you to go there. I just need you to go there. And I was like, I thought I was there. Like, wasn't I there? And he goes, no. It's I loved it, but we need you to go there now. And I remember thinking, I don't know what else to do. But somehow that freed me up. Just that, I'm just going to, who knows? There's nothing in my head I can think of. Played every action I can think of and just sort of go for it. So I think being open and honest somehow frees things up. I'm sure Pip's talking to you a lot about that, particularly in front of the camera, just to be, to let it go. And everyone is nervous. Everyone. No matter how much they look like they're not.
Thanks, Hugh.
Thanks, sir. That's so true, Hugh. The doorway to possibility moving forward is to acknowledge what's in the way. The moment you acknowledge what's in the way, you go, oh, I get it now.
Yeah.
I'm holding myself back. I'm confused.
Yeah.
You go, great. We've got that.
Yeah.
Now move forward.
Yeah, 100%. And when you deny that, the feeling gets worse. It's like, oh, I don't think anyone's noticed. No one's saying anything. Let's go for another take. I think, and it's just, everyone just gets, and it unravels. So you put it so clearly, as you always do.
That's great. And we're now going to Abalash in 4th year, because we've gone from, of course, advanced diploma to a degree. And so the course got longer to embrace it. So Abalash, come on in.
Hello, mate.
Abalash, how are you, man?
Good. How are you?
Good.
So it was actually good that you mentioned prisoners. My question is just how do you prepare for an emotional moment in a production, and how do you keep it going if you have to work for a long time?
Yeah, I really try to keep things open, all the channels open. Like for me, I worked out that I hold emotion in my hips. A lot of men do. I will sit there and do the pigeon in between scenes. It's going to sound really weird, and people look at me like he's doing yoga. But somehow, like some people, it's their shoulders. Some people, it's their tongue. Actors, sports people, if you watch every 100-meter runner what are they doing before? They're doing all this, poking their tongue out. Like people have got all these weird rituals. So for me, with an emotional scene, it's really important to stay loose, open, calm. Often I'll use music. I like to work with the director at the beginning of a project, and I'll say to them, what kind of music do you hear in the soundtrack? Like, what are you hearing? And they'll usually give me a playlist of stuff. So, or it could be songs for myself. And trying not to anticipate what's going to happen. I think particularly emotional scenes, you can go in with you read a scene and it's, all right, Billy breaks down with racking sobs. You're like, racking sobs? That's massive. Okay, I've got a racking sobs, and it says here halfway through. All right, so I better start to think of something really like early on in the scene, right? And you start planning it, and that never happens in life, right? The racking sobs are usually more racking because you've tried harder to stop it, and then when it releases. So it's okay for the takes to be wildly different. It's okay to play. It doesn't have to break down at the same time. Sometimes you'll cry, sometimes you'll laugh. Keep playing, play your action, and keep open. And whatever it is to help you to stay open. And I also say to a director, I've learned this. I say, can we do the closer coverage first? Because I made the mistake early on. And I used to think it was good. We're going to do, most film sets you go wide, right? Establish the scene. Wide gives you a chance to get the scene flowing, and then go in closer. And I would say, let's go first. Because, something might happen early on that I may struggle, or I may think I've got to try and recreate what was happening before lunch, because now we're going in close and I'm pretty tired. I'm wiped out a little bit and it's not quite there. So I'll say, what's really important for you? And they'll say, I really need the closest important. I say, well, let's go first and let's just make sure we got it, and then we'll just keep going from there. So there's some of the practicalities you can use, I think.
Thank you.
But try not to, just stay loose with it.
Of course, always.
And if it says racking sobs and you're doing a scene and you're connected and you're playing your action and there's no tears, you are not failing. No one knows. No one watching that show at home on TV goes, hang on, is there meant to be racking sobs halfway through this scene? So we can often go, if I'm an actor, if I was a real actor, I should be able to produce that racking sob halfway through the scene, take all that pressure off, all of it off.
Cool.
Work with your other actor, enroll them, have them there. Say, I need you here. Sometimes I'll say, I go, I'm feeling a bit stale. I've done 9 takes. Can you just ad-lib a whole bunch of stuff? I'm going to add, and they'll go, oh yeah, people will work with you and do whatever you need.
Sweet.
Great. Thanks,
Yeah.
It's
Thanks,
so
Todd.
true, isn't it, Hugh? When the question is asked, who's the most important person on set? It's the other character.
Of course.
They're the most important person. So suddenly it's not about you. It's not about you coming up with the goods. You will come up with the goods once you react, connect, and give in to the person. Give in to the person.
100%.
It's been a fantastic conversation. I've just so loved it. And thank you, everybody, David and all the staff and the students. ACA turned 33 last week, Hugh. And I turned 60 recently. I can't believe it. I was in love. I turned 60. But thank you, matey. I reflected back on how grateful I am for a few things. And about ACA, I'm grateful for the community because it's so important. If you're in a brilliant show in a bad company, it's ain't gonna feel good for too long. And I'm so grateful for all the people I've met and for the productions that live in our theatre, that live in the minds and hearts of people who come to see our shows. And I'm grateful that we met. And I mean, I was teaching you when I was 28. That's a bit of time.
And I thought you knew everything then.
I was just making up as I went along.
You did a bloody good job of it, man. Let me tell you.
Well, just before we go, I've got a little surprise for you.
Oh.
So if you can follow me.
I'm following you. Okay. Yeah.
That's not the surprise, by the way. Hey. And we're going into the theatre now. A little bit of lag. And here we are, Hugh, the first years, the second years.
All right. Oh my God. I'm seeing people in a theater. I want to cry. This is amazing. Oh, it's so great to see you guys.
That's good, huh? Mate,
it's
thank
awesome.
you so much for part of this. I love your generosity. I love your spirit.
Can I just say one more thing, Dino?
Yep.
I love you, man. And give my love to Shiv. And from day one, you have been a massive influence on my life. And I'm so happy for you guys in that theater or those people who are at ACA or auditioning for ACA because you're going to a great place and it's going to make you go out into that profession thinking, oh, anything is possible. And I know it's a difficult time and I know there's a lot of change, but there's a lot of change that needs to happen, you know, and you guys are going to be the storytellers and the ones who are holding that mirror up to the world. So I applaud you. I just dive in, keep being creative, keep believing in yourself, and just keep loving what you do.
Fantastic. Thank you, buddy. Love to you and love to the family. Take it easy.
Buddy,
Thanks,
guys.
you. Cheers, mate.
Bye, guys. See you, Troy. Bye, David. See you, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.